off all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv Gaming.
Has he really had a chance to shine in vVv Gaming Wednesday Night Starcraft?
Yeah, I don't really think he's had a chance to shine yet, as you put it. He's been on a number of weeks. I think maybe this is his third or fourth week. But, you know, all the other members of vVv Gaming have really taken it upon themselves to almost win a week just by themselves, winning 2 or 3 games. I know we've seen Titan, Ruff, and even Hasu, really dominate a week. So it'll be interesting to see when Zog's time to shine will be, as we do have him spawning as the blue Zerg player in the southern position, and we've got xSixFargo spawning as the teal Terran player in the northern position. Again, this is MLG Shattered Temple, so there's not going to be any close by ground positions, but we will have cross positions to start things off for Wednesday Night Starcraft.
Yeah, and cross positions, something definitely favored by Zerg players, knowing that they have a lot of time and a lot of room to maneuver around. Shattered Temple, as soon as they remove the close spawn positions, even in the BattleNet ladder map pool, it really opened things up for Zerg. I know Zerg normally had a very difficult time trying to take a third if it was a close spawn, so it's nice to see that the BattleNet ladder map pool is starting to resemble the tournament map pool as well, forcing these cross spawns, forcing no ally or close spawns as this game gets underway.
Yeah, you mentioned that change to the ladder map pool. It's going to make it a lot easier for these players to practice for tournaments and for events like Wednesday Night Starcraft here, where we do use a modified tournament set of maps. And if these players aren't used to playing them, if they get a lot of their practice on ladder, it can be difficult to perform well in tournaments. So you're just not used to the ladder map or the tournament maps, because you get so much practice on ladder, and close position ladder games tend to be short and not really play out like they would in a tournament. So cross position is going to play out a little bit more of a macro oriented game, I imagine. Zog going for a spawning pool here, and then he might be going for a quick hatchery as well, as he has not yet gotten gas.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting to see. I expect that spawning pool to start, and then he's going to, I believe, start scouting with this drone. It did pull off a little bit earlier, and then he's going to scout the cross position, figure out exactly what's going to come in. He's going to be able to sneak by, hopefully, and then be able to take a look that the gas is down from Fargo. So Fargo pretty much opening up with a standard Terran opening as well. He should be upgrading to an orbital command, but I think the timing may be just that Fargo should be able to start a supply depot and then block the drone, and the drone pretty much has very limited vision now, and I think that drone should have left perhaps 5 seconds earlier.
Yeah, you either don't drone scout or you have to drone scout a little bit earlier. If you don't drone scout, you definitely have to send those first set of lings across the map to get that information, see whether Hellions or a 2-Rax is coming. But at least he does know that it's probably not going to be a 2-Rax unless that second one is hidden a little bit. So he does get down that expansion, and he's got gas started here as well. So he's going to be able to start that speed, maybe a little bit late, but not too bad to deal with any sort of pressure coming from Fargo. And Fargo is getting up a factory, so he's actually getting out a 3rd Marine as well, so not immediately going for that reactor on the barracks. So any reactor is going to be at least a little bit delayed here.
Yeah, a little bit curious about that. We may see a reactor now. There it is. The reactor. 3 Marines are going to perhaps try to push out across the map as the standard 2, as you mentioned earlier, as there are 4 Zerglings. So the 4 Zerglings are going to chase down this SCV, wants to make sure that that SCV is not going to be able to do very much, but 3 Marines now quickly come in and able to push back the rest of those Zerglings. 3 Marines working together, able to 2-shot any one of those Zerglings, as the Zerglings perhaps trying to regroup, regather themselves, and then once again engage. You can see Zog has established his 2nd hatchery. He should be training up another queen as well. Not quite sure why he's floating over almost 300 minerals now, and we'll see what exactly Zog is going to do in order to counteract what will be Hellion harassment.
Yeah, I like Fargo pushing out there with those 3 Marines. I think players are really experimenting with, what if I get aggressive with just a few units? We see it from Protoss from time to time, as I think those Marines going to be chased down by these Zerglings, but you see a Zealot or 2, sometimes 3 or 4 Zealots chrono boosted out and sent across, and Zerg players don't really know exactly how to handle that right now. They don't have, how many Zerglings beats 3 Zealots or 3 Marines. So sending those across definitely going to force some extra lings out from Zog, and he's not going to be able to do too much damage, as these first few Hellions taking down almost all of these lings. The lings don't yet have speed only about halfway done, so Fargo definitely getting his money worth with these first 2 Hellions taking down all of the Zerglings made for Zog so far.
Yeah, Zog gonna be in a little bit of trouble as soon as those 2 Hellions become 4. The Hellion reactor 4 Hellions going to be pushing down in just a moment. All the drones already being very smart, deciding to transfer to back up onto the main base as the Hellions now look to see if they can get any drone kills, and it doesn't look like that will be successful at all. But now the Hellions are going to be able to torch the Queen rather easily, and this is going to be a really, really dangerous situation for Zog. If those Hellions got in, it would have been a lot of drone deaths. You can see 32 drones versus 23 SCVs. One drone does get caught on the ramp, and now all Zog really has is a bunch of larvae on the bottom of the ramp. But it looks like he should be going for perhaps some roaches now and being able to push back these 6 Hellions.
Yes, 7 roaches about to come out, so they're at least going to be able to defend against these Hellions, maybe even push across the field a little bit for some aggression. But we do see Fargo getting up his first few Marauders as well, so he's going to perhaps do some sort of pressure here with Marauders and roaches, and that combination can be deadly taking on, or Marauders and Hellions, as that combination can be deadly taking on the Ling and the roaches that Zergs usually use to defend in the early going.
Yeah, right now we see Zog going for 14 additional Zerglings, so he wants to get those Zerglings. Perhaps he is expecting a lot of Marauders. An Overlord of Zog does do a little bit of a flyby, sees that there are a lot of barracks, and now Hellions doing a quick run back around, and the Roaches do not see this, and that may be a very, very bad day for Zog, as those Hellions may simply be able to drive up here, and now this is going to be some bad news.
Yeah, hopefully he can get us around here with these Lings, and he looks like he's doing a nice job of that. A number of those Hellions do go down. He will be able to clean those up. At the same time, the Roaches are about to make it to the front door of Fargo, but Fargo has 2 Marauders, and he's got a siege tank here, so these Roaches have to retreat. They're not going to be able to do too much damage, and the players just trading back and forth here. I think Zog being able to clean up those Hellions for just a few Zerglings there was definitely a good trade on his part. And now he's taking a third base on the far eastern position, so this third base probably not going to be scattered too quickly here by Fargo, and Fargo going to be placing his second orbital command by his natural, so expanding on his own, and I think both these players ready to get into a mid game.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any aggression for perhaps the next 2 minutes, maybe a little bit of harassment, but both sides are just going to sit in their bases and try to figure out what their next strategy is going to be, or what that long-term strategy is going to be. You can see Zog now teching the tier 2. He does have that evolution chamber up. We'll see whether he goes for spore colonies, just in case there could be some Banshee harassment as well. As you can see, now 38 drones compared to 32 SCVs, but there are 3 mules in play, and those mules are definitely going to give a very strong economic bonus to Fargo while they're around.
And we do see a lair coming out for Zog, so it's interesting. He got down that third base and out a number of Roaches and Lings before going for that lair tech. I know a lot of Zerg players try to rush for lair tech, but more and more are finding that if I get my economy established, if I get on 3 bases, if I defend any early pushes and then go to lair tech, it's going to be a lot more stable. I'm going to be able to have my 5th and 6th gas up and running, and I'm going to be able to come out with a lot more mutas, a lot more infestors to really push into that mid game with this nice strong tech push.
Yeah, right now Fargo is still training up additional SCVs, so I think he is trying to play a little bit of catch-up. 37 SCVs compared to 46 drones now, so really Zog doing a really great game of just trying to macro up very, very quickly. You can see the rocks have been taken down at the gold mineral patch as well, so if he does start another hatchery here, I think that would make Fargo believe that that 4th base or this 3rd base at the 3 o'clock position wasn't even started either. Fargo now with a 14 food advantage as he transitions, and he is still floating a lot of minerals. So, or actually no, it's the other way around. Fargo with the 10 food advantage. I'm getting my colors mixed up.
Well, teal and blue are pretty close here, but Zog actually has quite a few Lings, and he hasn't been doing too much with them. You hate to see these Lings not doing anything. They could be drones, and now he's finally seeing maybe he's going to be taking down these destructible rocks, the back door, but instead it looks like he might have those Lings in a counter position as Fargo moving out with a huge force of Marines, siege tanks, and Marauders, and now Zog's going to have to get on his horse and make a ton of units. He's got 32 Lings on the way, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to take on this force if Fargo gets in a good position and sieged up.
Yeah, Fargo with now 5 siege tanks moving across the field. There are no medevacs, so this is not going to be a very, very lasting aggression, but Fargo with so many units may be able to destroy anything that gets in his way in just a moment. Unable to see up onto the high ground except for the use of scanner sweeps now, as Zerglings are misrallied, and that is going to be a very, very hard hit, as Fargo now going to be able to just use the terrain, and Zerglings are now trying to engage. Roaches coming in from both sides. The Marines are pulling back together, and it looks like a couple of siege tanks have fallen, but not enough just quite yet, as more Roaches getting slaughtered once more.
And no AoE here for Zog. He doesn't have any Infestors out. He doesn't have any Banelings, so he's not able to get the big splash damage. You need to take down huge chunks of Marines. His Lings don't have too much in the way of upgrades. He does have speed on these Roaches and armor for the Roaches, so he might be able to do some damage and finally take down a few tanks here. Takes down one from the high ground. He can focus down another one perhaps, though at this point there are Marines on the high ground giving sight to those low ground tanks. There are SCVs repairing the tanks as well, and I think Zog is in a lot of trouble as he's just trying to take down the last few forces here, but I think a lot of damage was done there by Fargo. He does have about a 10-15 supply lead, and I believe he's going to try to find this this third base if he's smart here. He knows that units have been coming from the eastern position, and he could pinch in there and basically shut down the third base of Zog.
Yeah, but so far Fargo is just really just trying to defend against this attack right now. Zergling's now completely going to swarm this position, and Fargo, because he didn't have any medevacs, this push just wasn't very, very durable at all, even without Banelings, even without the proper counter units. And, you know, Marines using Stim over and over again, a lot of damage was dealt, as now Fargo looks to perhaps go for a drop and place it directly on this 3 o'clock location here. Zog is mining off of two gas here as he's perhaps going into Mutalisk, but I think those Mutalisks will be a little bit late in trying to stop this medevac drop.
Yeah, dropping the main, trying to focus down the Spire as well. Got it about halfway, but Zog was able to defend that with Lings. Now we see these Marines are unloaded in the eastern position. They're about set to stim up and do some damage to the economy. There aren't too many drones over here, though, so Zog only does have 49 drones, and we'll see how many are able to be taken down here by Fargo. He's going to focus down the Queen first, hurting that macro of the Zerg, and now focusing down these drones on that third base, and this is going to make Zog basically on two bases at the moment, just as main and natural, and Fargo's going to lose the majority of those Marines and perhaps the medevac as there finally are mutas out here, but he did a decent job taking down the economy and lightening it up a little bit for Zog.
Yeah, and now Zog with a 10 food advantage, surprisingly, and also has a lot more minerals in the bank. So we'll see if he can transition away from this and perhaps get the lead that he needs as Fargo now establishes his third base, the gold mineral patch over here, as the Marines and siege tanks try to take on the rocks.
And we saw a drop in the main there, was actually able to focus down that Spire. So Zog is going to be Spireless for the next few minutes unless he remakes it here. Just right now on Roach and Ling Tech, and he's trying to drone up his third. He did a decent job, so he does have 55 drones compared to the 51 SCVs, and it looks like he's about ready to push out these mutas and get some harassment done. There aren't turrets at the gold here for Fargo, so he's just going to have to use Marines here. He doesn't have a lot of medevac, so stims by these Marines definitely going to hurt him, as these mutas just trying to figure out where they can do damage. They're going to focus down a few mules there in the natural, but I feel like Zog, this is his chance to do some harassment here to the economy of Fargo, and he definitely needs to, as Fargo has been the aggressor for this game so far.
Yeah, Fargo definitely the aggressor so far, and I don't see a rebuilding on that Spire just quite yet. I don't know if Zog realized that he cannot trade Mutalisk, and that may be the reason why he's floating so many minerals and gas. There, the Spire now being rebuilt, level 1 weapons upgrade, including Banelings as well, as the Mutalisk really need to get a lot of mileage, perhaps just trying to choke Fargo off of 3 bases and hope to buy him some time. Fargo does have a slight food advantage. I'm currently up to 23 right now, but with these Mutalisks and just how fast they're able to move, they can be almost everywhere at once and get in a lot of damage, but a medevac looking to drop at the 3 o'clock location once more.
And we finally have a Baneling nest coming up as well for Zog, and he needs to really get speed up on those Banelings as soon as possible, because Fargo, when he does finally push out here with all these tanks and all these Marines, Zog is going to need some sort of AoE to get nice splash on those Marines, really take them down. The Marines going to do quite well against the Mutas and the Lings with siege tank support. As you mentioned, these 8 Marines in the eastern position once again pushing down, going to try to do a little bit of damage, but they see all these Lings there waiting for them, so pulling back. Smart move by Fargo. He is now 30 food ahead of Zog, and he's got this gold up and running, all these mules being dropped on it, and he's got missile turrets as well, so Fargo seems pretty safe at the moment, and I imagine he's going to be gearing up for an endgame push here with medevac, siege tanks, and Marines.
Yeah, with level 2 weapons upgrade on the infantry and level 2 armor upgrades with the siege tanks as well, this push is just going to be really, really deadly, and you can now see Fargo adding even more barracks in the middle of the battlefield, and now looking to establish his fourth base with another command center over here close to the 9 o'clock expansion location. And Fargo just looks to be very, very comfortable. This is this Terran army that you never want to allow a Terran to build up to. He can easily just out-resource you with those mules and then free up some food with by using mules alone, and then be able to trade very well. As you can now see, the mules are deciding to back off once more.
Yeah, Fargo pushing into this mid, he's going to start clearing out creep tumors, really making his presence felt here, as Zog has done a nice job of macroing up. He is only about 15 food behind at this point, but he's going to try to take down these siege tanks, gets 2 of them, and that's a little bit of a mistake by Fargo. He cannot afford to lose these siege tanks. He's going to need those siege tanks with that +1 weapon. They're going to start one-shotting these lings, so definitely needs those alive and well, as he's got a nice spread in the midfield here, and he needs to keep pushing, slow pushing, and keeping on the pressure, force Zog to kind of commit here to a big defense, and then do a nice job microing and take down the forces of the Zerg player.
Yeah, the Mutalists now 27 in the air, doing a great job, but they're not upgraded, so they're still 0-0 right now, while those Marines are 2-2, so 2-2 Marines dealing 8 damage per attack, and not quite sure what happened there. It looked like some Banelings just blew up for no real reason, as the Mutalists need to really engage and figure this out. Fargo is kind of spread thin, so all it will take is one very, very nice engagement, and Zog could perhaps bust through all of these Marine siege tanks and medevacs.
Yeah, Zog about to be maxed. He's making 22 lings, and then he really needs to start breaking the center. It's really going to start cutting off his reinforcements. If Fargo puts pressure on this gold, he's going to have misrallied units, and he's going to have to attack from multiple positions. A drop in the eastern position takes down, I believe, a few drones, and Zog does have his gold up and running, and at this point, he's going to have to pick an opportunity to really push into the mid, and this might be it.
And here we go, Zerglings and Banelings now rolling through the center. Siege tanks able to get some damage, but unable to really do anything else. But the Thor now able to get off 1 round of javelin missiles, and those Mutalisks were not magic boxed. 1 siege tank down to 1 hit point. They're a little bit lucky, as a Thor eating through this just massive number of Mutalisks, and that's not how you want to engage against a Thor. The Thor getting 6 kills already.
Yeah, he was able to lighten up Fargo's army quite a bit. Fargo at 145 and Zog actually at 155. He's got 8 more mutas on the way, so if he's able to micro these battles well, he definitely has the advantage. He's got his economy up and running, a 5th base about to come, and once again coming in here with all these lings, the Banelings and the mutas, this time magic box. They're going to focus down that Thor, they get it, and it looks like pulling back with the lings and the Banelings. I'm not sure if that's a smart... Oh wow, a huge Baneling hit there. Takes down a number of Marines, and I think the Zog really needs to take this opportunity, maybe get out 1 more round of Lings and Banelings and really crush this center.
Yeah, the Zog just really utilizing these Mutalisks very, very well. The majority of his army is in these Mutalisks there. 24 in the air, 7 more now being trained, and Zog, I think, just has so many Mutalisks that even though the Marines are coming in as reinforcements, they are not pooled together well enough. And siege tanks are just getting picked off left and right, and this is not good news, as Fargo is starting to unravel.
Yeah, actually only just now 10 Marines coming out at a time, as Fargo's been keeping his spending or his resources quite low, so he doesn't really have a huge bank to macro up. So Zog was able to break that initial pressure here. He's just got a few units left, and now Fargo has a great position behind this basically chasm in the middle, so the Zergling's gonna have to go around to get to those tanks, but he's just got so many mutas here to really harass and poke and take down these tanks and small groups of Marines. Really needs another Thor or 2 in the mid to pressure those mutas and force them into magic boxing.
Yeah, it really needs another Thor, and now level 2 weapons upgrade, and now 2 Thors being trained. 2 Thors are going to be able to deal a lot of damage here, as Zog losing a couple of those Mutalisks, and now Zerglings are going to perhaps go in a little bit for a counterattack. It looks like those Marines will get taken down, but Zog really needs to find a way to break through this containment. Otherwise, if the game goes any much longer, Fargo is going to have planetary fortresses and missile turrets all across the map, and those Mutalisks are not going to be able to do very much at all.
Yeah, I think Zog's giving this contain in the center a little too much respect. He could crush this at any point. He's got floating minerals, so now he's finally going to be doing a run by here with these lings, and he's also going to force Fargo to basically unsiege, come home to defend, as he's got all these racks and his these reactors in the center of the field, so they're going to go down very quickly. He does not have a planetary fortress at that gold, a magic box here on one of these Thors, so it's focused down quickly by all these mutas. As you mentioned earlier, there are just so many mutas, and now these lings and mutas just wrecking havoc back in the base of Fargo, and he's got all these naked siege tanks in the center of the map. Lings could take those down as well, and I think Fargo's just falling apart.
Yeah, Fargo is falling apart. Zog just doing a great job being, or just pressuring everywhere with Mutalisk. One of the things about Mutalisk is their high mobility, even though they're not dealing that much damage, even though they do not have that many upgrades. And Marines are 3-3. Those Mutalisk and the sheer numbers and their high mobility is really making Fargo think twice. But Fargo, the longer this game goes, the better I gotta believe that it is gonna be for him, since he already has those upgrades.
Yeah, we got another 11 mutas coming out, so that's going to be, once again, 22 mutas in the sky, and Zog's basically keeping around 25 mutas the entire game. He did just lose quite a few mutas to a pack of Marines, so a little bit of a bad decision on his part. But once again, I think he just needs to really macro up. He's floating 2,000 minerals, almost 1,000 gas. Needs to get on top of his injects, get a nice wave of lings and banelings, crush this center, and then just start picking off the bases of Fargo. You can't really allow a Terran player to get into a position like this and keep it the entire game, as Zog now has a 50 food advantage, and Marines are pushing into the gold base.
Yeah, you can now see the Mutalisk able to take off 2 siege tanks while the Marines are looking to push in, but there's a lot of banelings just sitting there waiting for him. And it looks like the Mutalisk are going to perhaps take down some of these production buildings. They took down a couple of reactors as well. Marines overusing that stim, now all very low on hit points as the Mutalisk decide to back off. But I don't know if Zog knows. No, he does know about these 2 bases on the left side of the map. And there's still one base for each player that they can try to utilize and take.
Yeah, that Thor getting a huge few shots on those mutas. I think it really thinned up that muta bunch. Another 14 mutas on the way, though. Another 40 lings. So Zog macroing up finally, using all these resources down below 1,000 of each, and he needs to crush the center. He needs to go a big counterattack. Here it comes. So we'll see whether he's able to take down all these siege tanks. He's got lings and banelings moving into the center. The banelings getting off some nice shots on these Marines. Fargo doing a nice job of spreading his Marines out, and I actually think might hold here. It is 110 to 105. I can't believe Fargo held that.
Yeah, Fargo with those upgrades, the 2-0 upgrades on the Thors and the 3-3 upgrades on the Marines are really starting to show. You saw the food advantage by Zog, but Zog just wasn't able to have his units stick around long enough, and now Fargo is going to be able to push into the gold, and now some damage is finally being dealt. Another round of javelin missiles from the Thor, just softening up that group of Mutalisks in the sky.
And Zog needs to get a nice surround here. Finally takes down that Thor. It was being repaired by a few SCVs, and these lings doing their best to take on these siege tanks, down to just 2 siege tanks. He's got SCVs and Marines streaming across the field, and there's the GG from Zog. 89 food to 90. I'm not sure if he was out of it, but he felt like he was.